are continuing casting their ballots to choose a president ahead of the voting day scheduled for Saturday, the 7th of September. The Minister of Foreign Affairs and the National Community Abroad, Ahmed Attaf, is representing today the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, in the 4th China-Africa Summit in Beijing, China, held under the theme Building a Common Future for Africa and China. Algeria's permanent representative to the United Nations, Ambassador Ammar Ben Jamaa, told the Security Council meeting on the situation in the Middle East, including the Palestinian question, that those who took part in the massacres against Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank must be brought to justice. Hello and welcome on Radio Algeria International. I'm Jamal Zamani. Voters in remote and sparsely populated areas of the country's southern provinces began flocking to mobile polling stations on Wednesday to vote 72 hours ahead of schedule for their candidates in the 7th September presidential election. Voting got off to a good start at the 51 mobile polling stations deployed throughout the scattered and isolated areas of the provinces of Wirgla, Janet, Tindouf, Tamanrasset, and Gazam and Bashar, where all the human and material conditions were met by the provincial delegations of the Independent National Election Authority, ANI, to enable voters to carry out their electoral duty in the best possible conditions. Meanwhile, the Algerian community abroad or around the world is continuing casting their ballots in good conditions to choose a president for the coming 5 years. The representative of the National Authority for Elections, ANI, in charge of monitoring the elections, Mr. Beneji Mohamed El Hadi from Montreal constituency, had this to say.
ANI has taken all the necessary steps to ensure the smooth running of the elections. We have drawn up the electoral list, taking into account the latest revision. We have opened 4 polling stations, 2 in Montreal, 1 in Laval, and 1 in Quebec. The elections are taking place in good conditions in the presence of the candidates' observers.
The Minister of Communication, Mohamed Lagab, has said that all the necessary resources have been mobilized to ensure media coverage of the presidential election scheduled for next Saturday. In a statement on the sidelines of the inauguration of the International Press Center at the Abdeltif Rahal International Conference Center here in Algiers, Mohamed Lagab said that the ministry has made all the necessary resources available to national and foreign journalists. Meanwhile, Radio Algeria International has organized a forum entitled The Diaspora Votes. This was a live audio-visual monitoring of the diaspora elections in the 5 continents, broadcast live on Radio Algeria International, Channel 1, regional radios, the central platform, and other online platforms. The 2-hour forum was supervised by the Director General of the Algerian Radio, Mohamed Baghali, who had this to say.
Radio Algeria International gained an important place not only at the national and international media levels, it became a source of information for several foreign media. Today's initiative taken by Radio Algeria International was aimed at sensitizing the citizens about the importance of participating in the elections, explaining through this program the vision and the interest granted by the state to the national community living abroad, which was subjected in the past years in the West to a campaign of depreciation and unprecedented attacks, mainly for religious reasons. We have decided within the Algerian radio to offer members of the community a platform to express their concern. The Algerian radio has become, in few years, the voice of the Algerian community abroad. As a proof, we have today's program initiated by Radio Algeria International.
The Algerian radio has been unanimously elected first vice president of the African Broadcasting Union in Gabon, Botswana, by the members of the union's executive council. At the previous General Assembly held in Dakar, Senegal, the Algerian radio, represented by its Director General, was elected to the post of second Vice President of the African Broadcasting Union. Prime Minister Nadir Al-Arbawi has chaired a government meeting devoted to the examining draft executive decrees and presentations relating to several sectors, according to a press release issued by the Prime Minister's office. Said Bougazi has the details.
During the meeting, the government examined the draft executive decree on the restructuring of national institutes for higher training of youth and sports executives, the aim of which is to improve the governance and ensure the best training conditions for managers specializing in physical education, with appropriate mechanisms for upgrading elite and high-level athletes and attracting young talents to join these institutes, and to help strengthen the management of the institutes and structures in the youth and sports sector. In addition, and as part of the follow-up to the implementation of the guidelines issued by the President of the Republic at the Council of Ministers meeting of 2nd June 2024 to reduce the pressure on ports, ensure the efficient handling of containers and reduce the financial impact resulting from the long waiting times for ships stuck in ports, the government examined the various measures taken in this respect, notably with regard to the digitization of procedures and the strengthening of coordination between the various parties involved in this operation. The government also examined 2 draft executive decrees on the renewal of licenses for the establishment and operation of electronic communication networks as part of the continuity of communication services and the improvement of technical and commercial offers for satellite internet access and broadband data transmission for the benefit of individuals and businesses. Moreover, and as part of the proactive measures to deal with the effects of bad weather, the government reviewed the measures taken and those to be implemented, particularly with regard to conducting flood prevention campaigns and the need to ensure immediate intervention. Finally, the government continued its examining of the procedures and measures taken by the sectors concerned as part of the preparations for the start of the new social year in its various aspects.
The Minister of Foreign Affairs of the National Community Abroad, Ahmed Attaf, represents today the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, in the 4th China-Africa Summit in Beijing. China held under the theme Building a Common Future for Africa and China. On the eve of the opening of the summit, the representative of the President of the Republic took part in a dinner offered by the President of China, Xi Jinping, in honor of the heads of the participating African delegations. On this occasion, Ahmed Attaf conveyed the greetings of the President of the Republic to his Chinese counterpart, as well as his wishes for success at this renewed meeting of cooperation and partnership between Africa and China. On the agenda of the summit is a review of the main thrusts of the comprehensive Sino-African partnership, covering all economic, political and socio-cultural areas of common interest and mutual benefit. The summit will also see the announcement of a new action plan, which will highlight the priorities and objectives that both parties aspire to achieve in the next stage. Ahmed Attaf has held meetings with a number of brotherly African heads of state, to whom he conveyed the fraternal greetings of the President of the Republic and his sincere wishes for the success of this important event. As you followed in our top stories, Algeria's permanent representative to the United Nations, Ambassador Ammar bin Jama, told the Security Council meeting Wednesday on the situation in the Middle East, including the Palestinian question, that those who took part in the massacres against Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank must be brought to justice. In his address to the Security Council, Ammar bin Jama stressed the need for action by the international community to put an end to the crimes committed by the Zionist entity in Gaza, but also in the West Bank, where massacres have been taking place in recent days.
The Zionist army's relentless campaign of ruin in Gaza is an unjustified campaign of destruction, said Erika Guevara-Ross, an Amnesty International executive director, in the report. Amnesty said that it had sent questions on this subject to Zionist officials at the beginning of July, but had not received any reply 2 months later. In August, the UN also stated that almost two-thirds of the buildings had been damaged or destroyed since the launch of the Zionist genocidal aggression on 7th October 2023. In this context, it is easy to understand why they should be investigated for war crimes, insisted the NGO. The Zionist occupying forces are continuing their aggression against the Gaza Strip by land, sea and air since 7th October 2023, killing more than 40,000 people, the majority of them women and children, and wounding more than 94,000, while thousands of victims still lie under the rubble. Since 7th October last year, the date on which the Zionist aggression against Gaza was launched, at least 685 people have been killed and more than 5,700 others wounded by Zionist fire in the West Bank, according to the Palestinian Ministry of Health.
Now, Palestinian prisoners' affairs organizations have said that the Zionist occupation forces have arrested 10,400 West Bank citizens since the 7th of October 2023, including 725 children, 400 women, including those captured in 1945 occupied territories and those arrested in the occupied West Bank, and 98 journalists, the Palestinian news agency Wafa reported. The details in this report by Saeed Bouhazi.
According to the Palestinian news agency Wafa, the Prisoners and Ex-Prisoners Affairs Committee, the Prisoners Club and the Ad-Damir Association for Prisoner Monitoring and Human Rights noted that the number of cases of arrest among children in the occupied West Bank is at least 725, while the number of cases of arrest among journalists since the start of the genocide is 98 journalists, 52 of whom are still in detention, including 17 from Gaza who have been identified, while 15 others are in administrative detention. The number of administrative detention orders since the start of the genocidal war has reached more than 8,872, including orders against children and women. The same sources explain that the constant arrest campaigns are accompanied by an increase in crimes and violations, including denigration operations, whipping attacks, and threats against detainees and their families, as well as large-scale sabotage and destruction operations in people's homes, confiscation of vehicles, money and gold mines, as well as large-scale destruction of infrastructure, particularly in the Tulkarem district and its camps, and in the Jenin neighborhood and its camp, and the demolition of houses belonging to detainees' families, and the use of family members as human shields. In addition, the occupation forces have carried out executions on the ground against Palestinian civilians, including members of the families of Palestinian detainees. The highest number of arrests was reported in the cities of occupied El-Quds and El-Khalil. At least 24 identified and declared prisoners were killed in occupation prisons after 7th October, as well as dozens of prisoners from Gaza who died in prisons and camps and whose identities and circumstances were not revealed by the occupation, and dozens of executions in the field. In all, 22 bodies of martyred prisoners are still being held by the Zionist occupation authorities. These figures do not include the number of arrests in Gaza, as the occupation has admitted arresting more than 4,500 citizens of Gaza, hundreds of whom have been released, indicating that the occupation has arrested hundreds of workers from Gaza in the occupied West Bank, as well as citizens of Gaza who were in the occupied West Bank for medical treatment.
And back to Algeria, the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, congratulated the two Algerian Paralympic champions, Othmani Iskander Jamil and Safia Jalal, after winning the gold medal in the 400-meter T13 and shot put F57 races, and Nassima Saifi for winning a bronze medal in the shot put F57 at the 2024 Paralympic Games taking place in Paris. He said, Algeria is proud of you, so congratulations to you and to Algeria. This is Radio Algeria International.
يا شمسي شمسي ما بين النجوم.
So hello and welcome to Radio Algeria International. Today we have with us a special guest, an Algerian artist, a singer in the band Chouma Choviek. Is it this?
It's exactly right. Thank you.
Hafid Derbel. Hello Hafid. Happy to welcome you on our waves.
Happy to be here very much, and thank you very much for the invitation.
So I would like to start our discussion with you giving us an introduction or an overview about the band Chouma Choviek.
Well, Chouma Choviek is a project of 10 artists from all over the world. We're all based in Switzerland. Me, myself, I have my origins in Algeria. We are 2 singers. The other singer has his origins in Bosnia. And then we have other musicians from Costa Rica, from Portugal, Hungary, and of course Switzerland, where we are based. And the group started as an orchestra without singers a few years ago. And Ivica, the other singer, and me joined the band 3 years ago, and started to put some vocals to the melodies that were being created. And the project has taken some wins ever since, and we just produced an album called No Man's Land that was released mid-February 2018.
So we'll talk about the album later. So the cultural diversity among the band members, what does it add to your music?
I think it's kind of a roller coaster when you listen to our music. It's 10 people with 10 different origins, 10 different stories, biographies, and that translate then to different melodies. We have influences from the Maghreb, from the Arab world, from the French speaking countries as well. We have a lot of influences as well from the Balkans, where Ivica is from. And we try to mix it, or to find the good mix of languages and melodies, and try to translate it in something that can be shared among many people.
So about your new album titled No Man's Land, the title itself seems mysterious and kind of flexible. What's the story behind the title and the album?
I think, with No Man's Land we're going more into the lyrics and the vocals, and it's definitely something that between Ivica, the other singer, and me, he has strong ties to Bosnia, and I have my strong ties to Algeria, and we both grew up in our respective countries. We moved to Europe as young guys, and we kept these strong ties. But at the same time, we created a new life there. And this No Man's Land is actually it's a legal word for the region between two borders. And we want to keep that no man's land very flexible, because we have the chance to navigate between the worlds, between the different regions, and we can take whatever richness we have from Algeria.
Do you see this as something positive?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think this is many people, when you see discourses in Europe, see that as a threat and as a danger, and I think we were very much aware of that, and trying to put the focus on the positive aspects of it, and try to show that that we are very diverse, that we have different religions, and that with all that Islam as a religion is part of Europe, as and that the Arab diaspora that is now in Europe, or the Bosnian, or whatever diaspora you have there, is part of Europe, because they are building new societies. And at the same time, we have our strong ties in our home country. So when we're here, we still feel home. It's not something that when you arrive, you feel that, yes, you've been away, but there is an instant feeling of getting home, which is a beautiful feeling. And this no man's land is something that is very flexible, and it might mean something slightly different from me as for Ivica or anyone who listens to the music. And but I think it's important to go and reflect. What's your no man's land?
Ljubio sam jednu malenu, ale vitkinju. Ljubila je I ona mene bez predstave. Ljubila bez prestanka, bez predstava. Ljubila
allez vite, tes yeux sont suprêmes, ta voix berce ma mélancolie. Allez vite.
So how is it to be in Europe since you still feel that your home is Algeria?
Of course, yeah. Well, just to tell, I feel also home in Europe. I live now in Switzerland. I have been living in Switzerland for 6 years. My wife is Swiss, my kids are Swiss, and they are also Algerians. So, as I said, we've built also lives in Europe. So, thing is, yes, I'm very happy and privileged to have the chance to be in Europe, but I'm even more privileged and happy to have the chance also to be here, to be in my home country. By the way, with my children and my wife at the moment, and we just been 2 weeks in Algeria, traveling, visiting family, etc. And very, very fulfilling and very rich and really very happy.
How does the new album differ from your previous songs and productions?
We only had an EP so far. So, we started 3 years ago with the vocals, and we produced a little EP with 6 songs called Babel. Babel also is reference to the diversity of languages and the richness of languages. That was produced in end of 2015, beginning of 2016. So that was a beginning, and I wouldn't say differ with the new album, because it's just like I think the process has started 3 years ago, and we're still in that process of creating something. So it's more a continuity rather than something different, and continuity in such a way that I think what Ivica and me still moves a lot is really to put the positive aspect, to have the chance of different home countries or different places you call home. Also see what means home, what means home country, and it's of course it's a place, it's a landscape, it's a smell, it's a taste, and it's definitely also the faces, the people dear and close to you. And I think that's all a mixture of home, and many of these faces, of these smells, of these tastes, of these feelings are here and will always be here in Algeria, and then the new ones that we created along the way, wherever we passed and whoever we met along the way.
Tes jours, chère famille, chers voisins, je vous serre dans mes bras, et mon cœur qui s'enflamme et qui éclate de joie et qui bat de bonheur, qui vit et qui rit et qui chante bien que mal et qui boit votre chaleur, qui ivre d'amour danse bien que mal.
So I saw that you held several music concerts in Europe, and I saw the audience's positive interaction with the band. So what about Algeria and the Algerian audience? Don't they have the right to enjoy that music?
Oh, I would love to. I think we as I said, we just created it, but I can certainly say this is one of my biggest dreams, is to be able to perform one day with the Shuma Chowiek in Algeria.
Why not?
Oh, we will tackle it right away. I think this is something we haven't started with now because we just started in Switzerland where the program started it. But I think the next step for us as well is really to try to contact also different festivals in Algeria, and hope to get invited to one of them.